Hey guys, thanks for joining us for session 2 of Introduction to Buyers. Today is all about writing offers. So the first half of our class is going to consist of a video overview of the components of an offer and a quick tutorial of how to initiate a transaction within ZipForm. Ken and I have provided a couple handouts for you to review, and a copy of each document we'll be reviewing today, so you can follow along if you'd like. After the video, Ken's going to share some of his expertise with us and answer any questions that anyone may have. So let's get started. So the forms that we use within an offer are the Disclosure Regarding Real Estate Agency, or CAR Form AD-2, Possible Representation, Buyer and Seller, CAR Form PRBS, Residential Purchase Agreement, CAR Form RPA-CA, Wire Fraud and Electronic Funds Transfer Advisory, Form WFA, and Buyer's Inspection Advisory, Form BIA. The first form we're going to look at is Disclosure Regarding Real Estate Agency Relationship. The purpose of this form is to make sure that every person who hires a real estate agent is given the opportunity to learn how agency works before they sign. So it goes down the list of each type of agency. We have our seller's agent, buyer's agent, and then an agent representing both seller and buyer, as well as the seller and buyer's responsibilities themselves. So this is important just to ensure that everybody in the transaction knows what to expect from each other. The next form that we're going to take a look at is the Possible Representation of More Than One Buyer or Seller Disclosure and Consent form. So the purpose of this is to disclose to your client that at any given time you could be representing multiple buyers and or sellers. It also discloses the possibility of dual agency, which means that the buyer and seller are represented by the same broker, not just the same agent. It could be the same broker. So two different agents that share the same broker, it's still dual agency. This is allowed as long as it's properly disclosed. Lastly, this notes that your client's offer is not necessarily confidential unless you use a confidentiality agreement. This means that the listing agent can potentially share details of your offer with other people. So just something to think about when you're putting an offer together. So the next form that we're going to take a look at is the Wire Fraud and Electronic Funds Transfer Advisory. And what this is a form that is supposed to educate your clients about the risk of wire fraud and detail several steps that they can take in order to protect themselves from it. So this is very important. Unfortunately, this happens often, so you really want to make sure that your client knows their risks here. Now we're going to review the California Residential Purchase Agreement and Joint Escrow Instructions. So first things first, we're going to put our date prepared, and then we are going to obviously put who the clients are, the address of the property, city, county, zip code, assessor's parcel number. This number can be found on the tax records or on the MLS listing. And then we're going to put our purchase price, and this is what we're offering, and our close of escrow date. Ordinarily, it's 30 days, but you can manipulate that depending on your situation. Next, we're going to get into our financing terms. So we're going to start with our initial deposit. We're just going to go ahead and put the deposit amount in this box on the right, and then we're going to check the appropriate payment method to escrow. If it's an all-cash offer, we're going to check the all-cash offer box, and we're not going to worry about the loan stuff here. If it's a loan, then we are going to go down to the first loan section, and if it's conventional, then you don't have to check anything, and you just need to type in the loan amount. And if there is a rate that it isn't to exceed, or an adjustable loan rate with an initial rate not to exceed, then you're going to go ahead and fill that information in here. If there's a second loan, we're going to repeat the process here. And if it's an FHA or VA, we're going to need some additional documentation in order to disclose that. We'll need a FVAC CAR form. Then we would add our down payment here. So on to the next page. This page consists of the verification of down payment and closing costs, appraisal contingency and removal, loan terms, loan contingency removal, and the option to remove either of those contingencies from the agreement. Next, there is going to be a box that gives you the option to say that this offer is contingent upon your buyer's ability to sell their current home. And so it's absolutely critical, if that's the situation, that you check this box. Otherwise, your buyer's earnest money can be at risk if something falls through. So make sure that you're very, very careful about that. Next, we're going to get into allocation of costs. So this is very simple. It's just going to go through who pays for what. It goes through various disclosures and different expenses like title insurance and escrow fees and city and county transfer fees. And so this is just who pays for what. You just check buyer or seller or both. If you want them to split it, you would check both boxes and write 50-50 on the line here. And so you just go through each of those line by line and see what your client is comfortable with. Next, you would note items that are to be included in the sale. So if your client wants to keep the stove or the washer and dryer or the refrigerator, it has to be noted here or they are not entitled to it at the close of escrow. And if you can add the model number of any of the appliances they're interested in, that's even better to guarantee that you're asking for the exact thing that you saw when you showed the house. So make sure that that is considered. If you forget one of these, it's not a very fun thing to have to replace at the end of escrow. Next, items to be excluded from the sale. This is if there's anything that is in the house that you don't want them to leave there, you can specifically request that it not be left at the close of escrow. Next, we're going to look at seller remaining in possession after the close of escrow. So if somebody asks for a rent back and they need to stay in the home after they've sold it, then they would need one of two forms. If it's under 30 days, they would need the seller in possession addendum, and if it's over 30 days, they would need a residential lease after sale. These next sections go over various disclosures like lead-based paint disclosures and natural and environmental hazards disclosures. So definitely read through those. It's important to know what those are all about. So next we're going to get into time periods, removal of contingencies, and cancellation rights. So this is going to detail the time periods and when the standard time for removing the contingencies is and what happens if somebody decides to cancel. So definitely very carefully read through this section. Due to our time constraints, I'm not going to go through every single thing line by line. We're just going to kind of summarize what each section of the contract means and what parts you should read to determine which information. So next we're going to go into remedies for buyer's breach of contract, dispute resolution, and arbitration of disputes. So this section, it's very important to note that if the buyer and seller don't both sign it, then it doesn't mean anything. So you have to get everybody's signature in order for this to be binding. And what this does is just describe what would happen in the event that somebody didn't follow the contract and how would things proceed from there. So next we have a couple various disclosures regarding service providers, MLS, and things like that. So make sure your client reads through this. This will just kind of give them an idea of everything to expect. And there's also a definition section of what terms are used in the agreement and what they mean exactly. So if anything is slightly confusing or you're not 100% on it, this definition section can help clear it up. Lastly, there's the expiration of offer. The standard time is on the third day after the offer is submitted by 5 p.m. If you want it to be different than that, then you need to check this box right here and you need to add a time and a date that you would like it to expire, and then have your client sign right down here. This last page refers to once the offer is sent out, if somebody is going to accept it or add a counter to it, that's where they would do this. So that is the end of the purchase agreement, and then we are moving into the buyer's inspection advisory. And what this does is explain to you why your buyers should get inspections on every aspect of the home and exactly what areas they should look at. And that's the end of the contract. So I'm sure you're all having so much fun at this point and not ready to fall asleep. So let's get into how to open up the transaction in ZipForm. So we'll access ZipForm by selecting car.org. Then we'll log in by clicking Access Now underneath Access ZipForm. We'll click Continue. And we'll initiate a new transaction by selecting New. We'll select New Purchase or Offer. Ordinarily, we would type in the name of our client or our property address, but for this example, I'm going to click Sample. We'll select Residential and Active, and then we'll select Save. A cool feature to note when you get to this homepage is the MLS Connect feature. If you know the MLS number for the home that you're writing an offer on, you can actually click this MLS tab, and you can type in your MLS login information as well as the listing ID, and click find, and the property will actually show up in this area. And once you see it there, you can select import and it will download some of the information for your offer for you, so you don't have to fill in every single field. Next, you would go to documents. And now we're actually going to find the offer documents that we need in order to start filling them out. So we're going to go to Add Doc, Add Form, and then we can either look down this row and find residential purchase agreement, or if it wasn't right there for you, you could type up in this search for name or description and type residential purchase agreement, and it would pop up, and we'll select that. Once we've found it, we'll exit out of this. And then this is going to pop up the compilation of forms that we were just reviewing. So now you can look through these and you can just point and click and type whatever information you want to fill in. And what's cool is if you fill the information into one field, it's going to auto-populate everywhere where that same piece of information is supposed to go in the contract. So if you write the buyer's name, every section that requires the buyer's name is automatically going to have it. So it's a little quicker than normal to just kind of get through this. And you would just go through line by line, just like we did in our example, and you would fill out all of the necessary information. There's a handout in front of all of you that goes over exactly what information to ask your buyer for. That's something to consider when you're looking at all of this, and that will give you the tools that you need to fill it all out. When you're done filling everything out, you'll select Save as PDF at the top of the screen. Then you'll select Save to My Device, and then select Save. When you see this page pop up, you're just going to double click the Click to Download PDF file now, and it'll be downloaded to your computer. So lastly, we are going to assemble an offer package. So all of you have a handout in front of you detailing what an offer package contains. So you would gather all of those documents, type up a friendly email to the listing agent, and go ahead and send it off, and then hopefully get your offer accepted. Now we're going to get into Q&A and some discussion with Ken. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.